There are many who would say that in this tournament, Nigeria have got cumulatively the least percentage of possession of all the teams that have been at this AFCON. Of all 24 teams that have played matches, they've got less than 44%.
In other words, they are defying the basic logic of football, which is you are able to create a goal once you have the possession.
Well, Nigeria's strength has come from being the best and the most ruthless team in terms of turnovers. They scored a ton of goals from turnovers. So they don't need to sustain momentum to score. But when they progress play, they quickly score. We're going to show you.
Exactly.
Yes.
So I want you to come over here. Let's have a full feel of a graphic feel of what you're talking about.
Yes. So we're going to show you one of the things that has served Nigeria so well. On Monday, we explained Alassane Yusuf, his absence, and how the team adjusted. We're going to show you what we expect Nigeria will do, which will not be to deviate from norm, which is to stay compact, close down spaces, but more importantly, the players anticipate and react. They apply themselves to any situations that they see. And in games like this, in tournament football, that is one of the most important things, which is for players to assume responsibility and not wait for the coach's instruction. Because when you see the danger, action happens in real time, split-second moments. You are not going to have the time to think about it before you react. That is one of the things that I've said in Nigeria so well. So we're going to show you, and we're going to allow this to play, right? Before we try to make sense of it. Right. This is against Guinea-Bissau. And you can see the Nigerian block of players at the back here, forcing the opponents to move the ball to the other side of the pitch, because when they came down here, there was no space. That space there is blocked again. They are forced to come central. A long pass comes in here. Again, quickly they close down the space. Now, let's pause this here and try to make sense of everything that we've seen. Right from this point, when the game develops, you realize that Nigeria have how many players? 1, 2, 3, 4 of their players in the vital areas at this point. Now, what that gives them is the ability to then, what that gives them is the ability to then move and shuffle the pack while also staying within proximity of the Guinea-Bissau player. So you'd realize that even when he receives the ball in space, he quickly is closed down by the Nigerian players.
Okay, very well.
So
sure.
You're going to find that diagonal pass quickly to him. When that pass comes in, and they've tried a series of passes here, it's not worked out. So you're going to see that pass that will break the Nigerian line in the space. But even then, quickly, 1, 2, 3 players there close down the space and stops that attack. Now, this is important because you can have the perfect plan. You can have the perfect shape of the players closing down the space, and at each stage, players being able to pick out their markers. But things like we've seen Kenneth Omeru do here is what gives credibility to this. The players understand it, but they can also react and sniff out danger. These are things that the shape of the team will not do for you. But when Nigeria win the ball, what do they do here? Quickly, you're able to see a synchronized, well-choreographed attacking pattern. So unlike most teams who would want to progress play and hoof it clear, when they win the ball, they know that we quickly have to switch. So when we want to switch, two things come into play. They need to find the nearest player in space, but that happens because of two things. The movement of the ball to create the space and offer themselves as passing outlets or options for the player in possession to locate them with the pass. And the player in possession also has to show that presence of mind to find the space, but also the quality to play that pass. Right weight, right technique, and it goes into his teammate. So within a split second, Nigeria could have chosen to go long. They've got the men, Chukwueze, Osimhen. They've got the pace, they've got the strength to hold onto the ball. But they think, and they play the ball gradually. The beautiful thing about this also is that you get to see players quickly. So how many players do we have for Nigeria in the opponent's third now? 7, in a matter of 3 seconds. And it's one of the things that have served Nigeria well now. Now, we're going to show you the second video and try to make sense of, and this is where I think South Africa can profit from this. Zaidu Sanusi has to step out of his zone to make that interception, but he's not the problem. The problem, as I identified, was the young man who's been re-educated to become a holding midfielder in Alex Iwobi. Now, after Nigeria's first match, one of the things that Jose Peseiro did was to introduce Alex Iwobi and Frank Onyeka. So Alassane Youssef was no longer available, so he needed to reshuffle the pack. So he goes for a back three with bank of four in front of that back three with two holding midfielders. So he will do Frank Onyeka, Alex Iwobi instead of Alassane Youssef. Unfortunately for Alex Iwobi, he does not have the instinct of a holding midfielder. And so when he has to sniff danger, it will not occur to him naturally. He will react late. And in this short clip, you're going to see him struggle to pick out his marker and struggle to block out the space. So there is an instance where he's caught in two minds whether to commit himself or to stop the pass. Now, this is Alex Iwobi. Now, check him. He is caught in no man's land. At this point, Iwobi makes the wrong decision because from the moment the opponents had the ball, he had no business trying to go after that player because Zaidu Sanusi had the player picked out, right? Sanusi had tracked the player, had followed him, and so all he had to do was to pick out this young man here. But Iwobi went here, vacating the space in this area. He went after the player who had already been marked by Sanusi, vacating the space in this area, and ultimately, this is where the pass would come from. The pass that would break the line and stretch Nigeria's defense. So when we press play, this is what you're going to see. And that's exactly where the danger comes from. In fact, we can go back and identify one other thing. Now, how is he not able to stop that pass? A betting man will tell you that for a natural holding midfielder, their instincts will be right. And they'll quickly close in there and either force the opponents to choose a safer option, which would have been this player here or this option here, or be able to block the pass when the player attempts to make that pass. But he fails to. So in one action shot, he's caught in no man's land, unable to process the action around him and respond appropriately as to which zone he has to stay in, which space he has to occupy. When the action actually happens and he was not able to anticipate it, he couldn't stop the pass either. But if you swap roles and you throw in Frank Onyeka here, he quickly deals with this. Or if you throw in Alassane Youssef, who we're all hoping, or Nigerians, I have to say, are hoping that he'll be available for this one, he sniffs out this, right? And so the defense is exposed. But again, you see one of the beautiful things about Nigeria's defense, which I have said is the application. So see what happens here in this situation. Who steps up? Trustekong.
And Trustekong has intercepted quite a number of these situations.
Exactly. So in the previous video that we showed you, it was Kenneth Omerio who was doing that. It was Zaidu Sanusi. It was Ola Aina who did all of it. Each member of the Nigerian defense is screwed on. They can sniff the danger when they see it. And at the end of the video, you saw Trustekong essentially showing his players or telling his teammates, get closer to them. And he was referring to Alex Iwobi because he was the one who could not stop that pass. He was the one who could not pick out the threat in the first place. But if you go back to South Africa's match versus Morocco, this short clip is important because that half space, that space between the left centre-back and then the left full-back, or in the case of Nigeria, the wing-back, or if you introduce it to the other end of the pitch, the space between the holding midfielder and the centre-back, the right centre-back and the right back is something South Africa have proven they can exploit. So if you go back to that match versus Morocco, the goal that Evidence Makopa scored, it was similar situation. Teboho Mokoena, I beg your pardon. It was a similar situation. Well-worked ball. They found the space, isolated the Moroccan holding midfielder, got in behind him. The passing was good. Quick one-touch movements. They were into the space. The goal was scored. And for South Africa, that is one of the things that I think will serve them well. Look, often analysts like to talk about being able to introduce variety, but also maintaining momentum. It is very easy to disrupt the flow of the team, the team's momentum in search of variety, right? And in a game like this, you're not going to dominate Nigeria. It won't happen. If it happens, it's because Nigeria are comfortable and they want to concede possession. And that is what they've done so far in this tournament. They've conceded how many goals? Just 2. all competition in the 5 matches, is it, that they've played so far. So far, they've conceded the most possession of all the teams remaining at the AFCON. They have been able to average only 44% from the matches that they've, which tells you one thing: Nigeria don't care about ball possession. So if that is what South Africa wants, they will let them have the ball. The most important thing for South Africa is how they deal with Nigeria's turnovers, because it is the only way Nigeria have scored their goals at this AFCON. Think of every single goal that is scored at this tournament. Even the first goal against Equatorial Guinea, right against the round of play, immediately after they conceded, they replied fire with fire. Game against Guinea-Bissau, the same. Against Cameroon, it was the same.
Now, Stone, you know this idea of sitting back, Atsu, thanks so much. This idea of sitting back, you know, and doing the counter and also having a very high turnover, it could work. It's worked so far. But what else would you want to see the Super Eagles do, considering the strengths that the South Africans can have, according to the analysis that, that Victor has given us?
Well, one of the first things I want to look at, because that was a brilliant analysis of the entire situation. Me, myself, I won't be starting Alex Iwobi, and I won't, personally, a second person that I won't start is Zaidu Sanusi, because he's not, when he overlaps, he doesn't return very, very often like that. So I won't start him, but what other option do you have? You have to play him. But one of the things that's going to be essential for Nigeria is the fact that South Africa makes mistakes. Very, very important. If you watch their game against Mali, it was as if South Africa were not in the game, because Mali, they had the strength, they had the agility, they were able to pounce on the mistakes of South Africa in the midfield. And South Africa makes a lot of mistakes in the midfield, because Mokoena, for example, who happens to be their best midfielder, and Zwane, who is very great in the midfield and everything, Mokoena is not a ball possession midfielder. He's a kind of a Frank Lampard. He wants to shoot the ball from outside the box. So he's not the one. He might make some passes that might not be actually very, very direct to his player. So in that situation, and then South Africa also have a situation whereby their left and right back like to overlap. Morocco should have scored up to 4 goals. They didn't. Mali had a field day with their left back and right back and midfield mistakes. They had a field day. It was so amazing for Mali. Mali were like, oh, you've set a table before me. This is wonderful. I'm going to eat all these biscuits and all this chicken and everything. It was amazing for Mali. So what Nigeria needs to do is very simple. I would like Alassane Yusuf to start alongside Frank Onyeka. Alassane Yusuf is a defensive midfielder. And then Frank can do the box-to-box dirty job. He's very great at that. In fact, one of my guys calls him Frank the Tank. That's the guy you want there. But what I want Nigeria to do is don't play so much short passes to convert. That thing where, the short passes we're trying to convert to attack, it might not be the best at that situation. It's not every time I want to see that. I want to see long balls. The reason I want to see long balls is because South Africa left and right back, they're up front. Yeah. They're going up for attack. So
what in effect you want to do is to see a lot more varying the game.
I want to see a lot varying, because first of all, you have Mvala, who is one of the best centre-backs at the AFCON. Mvala, Ekong, those are the 2 guys that are the best. And then you have Osimhen, who is fast. Mvala, the last time he dealt with a fast striker, there was a problem. The last time he dealt with Mali, there was a problem. That was one of his poorest games that he had. So Osimhen is going to give him problems. But you see the left and right back, we need Moses Simon in this game. This is where we need speed. This is where we need accuracy. We don't need Chukwueze dribbling and going to the corner.
Because Moses Simon has strength. Yes. He's got good anticipation and calculation as well. And he does brilliant distribution and he's not afraid to bring the game to you. That's one of the things I like about him, and it becomes very crucial at a time like this.
He is, but I think the bigger worry for Nigeria will be Victor Osimhen. He drinks deep or he drinks not. All action style that we've seen at this AFCON is what has provided the energy for the Nigerian team. I shudder at the thought of how fit Victor Osimhen in this game. The reality is, if he's not in the condition to properly apply himself, it will affect how much he can give to the team. And this is information South Africa will have. This is the information the South African defenders and midfielders will be given. In the first 15 minutes, I will not be surprised if you see 2 or 3 fouls on Victor Osimhen, because they will be told that go and test this guy and see how fit he is and see if he is in the right condition to play his usual high-octane football. So you will see them attempt to test where they have been told Osimhen is hurting. If it's a thigh strain, if it's a muscle injury, if it's a back strain, whatever it is, that is where the focus will go. Ostensibly to get an understanding of the physical condition of this guy. If it works after the first or second attempt, the motivation will be to get him off the pitch as quickly as possible. And that is my fear for Nigeria, because as good as Nigeria have looked on the turnovers, it is all, I don't want to say thanks in no small part, because it is all down to Victor Osimhen. And if he is not able to contribute to this game, I'm not even talking about a situation where he gets injured, but if he's not able to be himself and drag the team over the line the way he has done, it's difficult to look at this team and figure out how else they are going to fashion out goals, because as Osimhen has proven, he can make the sort of runs that will drag opponents out of position. The goal against Angola showed us why he's a world-class striker. In that situation, he knew that he needed to vacate the central spot in the penalty area. The only way to do that was to make the run and ensure that the defender would follow him. And because he's Osimhen, when he makes the run, you will follow him. He did. The space opened up, and then Ademola Lookman was able to convert it. So he brings so much to this team that Nigeria will miss out on if he's unable to contribute.
We will talk.